Assalamu alaikum everyone. So today's topic of the video is one of my favorites, which is to do with legal research. So research is something which I consider my biggest strength, and I feel that you should recognize your talent, something which you're good in, and then go about improving it and teaching others. So one thing which I've realized is that हमारे यहाँ law firms में there is this toxic culture in some of the places where I would say that I wouldn't name the category of people or whatsoever, but at least what I faced was that people are hesitant to share knowledge with others. There was this one instance where this one particular person said कि मैं सब कुछ सिखा दूँ, हाथ पाँव कटवा दूँ, and I was shocked. I was like, you know, when you teach others, as a student, I have spent my entire student life teaching other people and, you know, working in groups and studying together. So this is something, you know, when you teach other people, you also tend to learn yourself. So let's get started with the research techniques. Pakistan mein the main website for doing research on Pakistani law is Pakistan Law Site. So I'll give a demo of Pakistan Law Site once I've stopped speaking, and then, you know, I'll just briefly show you the different options available on the Pakistan law site. So to begin with, let's take a hypothetical example of a proposition. Let's say the partner has given you a proposition to do with finding case law in which the validity of the arbitration has been discussed and where the arbitration agreement has been challenged on the basis of it being invalid. Now notice, let's suppose I am the partner and I have given the research. I haven't told you the act governing arbitration. I haven't told you what sources to look into to find case law. So your primary source should be, in this case, Google. Now you'll be surprised that why am I mentioning Google? This is something which has not been preferred by partners and a lot of people, because Google can be misleading. But you'll be shocked, there are some really good articles and blogs written on Google. I have written so many of them, and some of my colleagues and seniors have written articles on arbitration. So do take advantage of whatever source of material is available. Then you can of course double check. You can double check from books. You can discuss it with your colleagues whether you're on the same page. So that way I think it's a good start to doing research. So in this case, once you've located the acts, which are the Arbitration Act 1940 and the Recognition and Enforcement of Arbitration Agreements and Foreign Arbitral Awards Act 2011, then you should further raise a question from the partner, and in this case you should ask that what type of an arbitration is it? Is it a domestic arbitration? Is it an international arbitration? So for those of them who are completely new to arbitration, they wouldn't even know what is arbitration, right? So you should get to know first what arbitration is. I think something which I have been guilty of, and now I have consciously made it a point to not be that fast with submitting work, right? So the idea with me was never to be over efficient and, you know, tell the partners that, hey, I am so good in doing work in a lesser time than others. It was just that, you know, I'm somebody who just kind of like, you know, does not take a break. Like it's Eid today and I'm still giving a presentation on arbitration and legal research. So anyways, so this is something which, you know, you should take your time, read the material, and then kickstart doing the case law research. Okay. So once you're on the Pakistan law site, there are different options available on the left side of the screen. So there is article search, and there is case law search, there is a statute search, and so on and so forth. In this particular instance, rather than going on the case law search, I would suggest that once you have read the Bare Act, now you should always make it a point that even if you have Googled something, right, you should take out the material in the form of books, right? So you should have your commentary on arbitration on one side, you should have the Bare Act on your side. And I have written the commentary on arbitration. I don't want to promote it because I've talked enough on that. So the idea is that pick any author on the commentary on arbitration. You should even make it a point to read Indian commentary, because for a very long time, Arbitration Act 1940 was exactly the same as in Pakistan. It only got repealed in 1996. Okay. So once you click on the statute search on Pakistan law site, you will see on the upper tab alphabetical arrangement of statutes research. So you will see from A to Z. Then you'll click on A, you'll choose Arbitration Act 1940, and then once you've read the Bare Act, you'll realize that the particular section governing domestic arbitration is section 33. Now I'm assuming that the proposition is related to domestic arbitration, right? So once you've read the commentary, I would suggest first read the commentary and then update your research on Pakistan law side. So another thing which I've observed is that people are very reluctant to do research from ALDs. Now ALDs are very important because it's a thorough way of doing research. You can never miss a case if you have done a proper research through ALDs. Now of course a lot of people are lazy, they just don't want to pull out ALDs, and in this case if it's a 1940 Act, then they would have to go all the way from 1940 to 2022. But that's what excellence is. I think everybody of you should strive for excellence. You should not settle for mediocrity. Okay, so that's one way of doing research. And then let's suppose you have done research on section 33, then you should jump onto Indian commentary on section 33. And often at times I have seen that some of the best partners that I have worked with, they do not just rely on Pakistan law, they would also cite Indian case law, especially if the cases are of Supreme Court. Court-wise research I would also talk about. It's very important that you realize that you should not cite cases, let's suppose, in Supreme Court of High Court. Of course, if there are no cases on a particular topic from Supreme Court, then definitely you can use High Court reported judgments as well. But you should aim for Supreme Court in all instances. And then you should go backwards from Supreme Court to High Court. And then if suppose your case is in High Court and you're not able to find Supreme Court judgments, then you should aim for division bench judgments, okay? Because division bench judgments are binding on single member bench. So that's something which people should remember at all times, because there is no point in doing a lot of research and not knowing how to do research, right? So now let's talk about Indian research. So there is this really good website, Manupatra, and not a lot of law firms have subscribed to it, but at least the law firms that I work, all of them have subscribed to Manupatra. So you'll be surprised, when I did research on Manupatra, there were some cases that I found from Manupatra and I didn't find it on Pakistan law side. Now imagine this is an Indian law database giving much accurate results of Pakistan cases as opposed to Pakistan law side. So I don't want to criticize Pakistan law side, even though I feel that it's way behind other websites that I used when I was a student at LSC. There was Westlaw, there was LexisNexis, and honestly there is no match whatsoever of those websites with Pakistan law site. It's just that nobody wants to take an initiative to improve the law site, so that's a drawback. Anyways, so when I'll show you the demo on Manupatra, you'll realize it's a bit complicated, but I swear it's one of the best websites, law website that I've worked with. So on Manupatra, I'll show you the demo, but just to kind of like briefly speak about it. Once you go on the homepage of Manupatra, on the left side there will be an international database. So you'll choose the option of Pakistan, and then there will be a number of cases on that particular proposition section whatsoever, right? You can further filter it down by choosing the court, like I said, prioritize Supreme Court judgments and then work backwards to High Court and so on and so forth, right? I will make a separate video on how to read judgments, but it's extremely important that when you find cases, right, do not rely on the head notes. So many times I have seen people who've just started off their career and they have given judgments क्योंकि head note में ये लिखा है. No, read the complete judgment. Head notes are sometimes completely wrong. There are things written in the head notes which are not even part of the judgment. So do not read the head notes, read the complete judgment. One of the tricks that I would share about doing research, and something which not a lot of people do, is that when you're reading judgments, right, you should focus on the counsel's arguments. Now that's a completely neglected part because people just read the facts and the end result. No, if suppose let's say you want the end result in a way where the validity of the arbitration agreement was challenged and it was invalid, and that's what you want because you're challenging the validity of the arbitration agreement. So you should read the counsel's arguments who's challenging the validity. He'll cite case law, he'll cite arguments, and then you should pick up those arguments, you should pick up those case law and start reading those cases. So it's like a map. The reason why I like research is because it's so creative. There are so many ways to do research, and I love reading case law. As a corporate lawyer, yes, I do miss doing research, because yes, I do research for legal opinions and other matters, but not as much as I did in litigation. So read the counsel's arguments, read the complete judgment, and prepare a case note such that when you are giving it to the partner knows that what are the facts, what are the principles discussed, and what was the end outcome. And I'll make a separate video on how to prepare a case note, because a lot of times people are just busy finding the case law without actually making proper notes on what was discussed in that particular judgment. Another tip that I would share is that whenever you're doing case law research, right, do not focus on the judgments which are only in favor of you. Also focus on the judgments that are against you, because that way you will know what's coming, right? Like what would be the other side's arguments. So do a very comprehensive research, and do not, like I said, aim for mediocrity. I myself have been sometimes told by my colleagues that, oh my god, Komal, why are you doing extra than what you're asked? Trust me, it has never been to do with over efficiency or to impress partners. I just want to do my work with sincerity, and I think if it's my responsibility that if I am being paid for something, if I'm being relied on for something, then I should do my best. So this is just a brief summary of how to go about doing research. Now I'll show you a demo on the Pakistan law site and Manupatra, how to navigate on the two law websites. So this is how the Pakistan law site looks like. So you'll notice there are two versions. One is the new version and the other one is the older version. I personally like the older version because I find it more user friendly. So once we choose the older version, you'll see this screen of username and password. So I've already logged in, and this is how it shows. So you'll notice there are a lot of options, like I mentioned earlier, on the left side of the screen. Case law search, advanced search, statute search, court-wise search, and so on and so forth. So earlier on I gave the example of the proposition validity of the arbitration agreement. So as I mentioned, that once you figure out what the applicable law is, which in this case is Arbitration Act 1940 if we are dealing with domestic arbitration, so we'll choose a statute search, and then we'll go on the alphabet A. Since there are a lot of statutes, so we can simply type the year of the statute, which in this case is 1940. Then we'll click on Arbitration Act 1940. So the relevant section is section 33. So once you click on cases, you'll notice there are a number of cases. So depending on what type of case law you require, if there's a case in Supreme Court, and even otherwise, like I said, you should prioritize Supreme Court cases. So you can filter the cases by court, and there are almost 4 pages of results. So I'll do a separate video on how to read a judgment, but I'll just give a brief overview. So this is how a judgment looks like. You'll notice that the counsel's arguments start from paragraph 2. It's always a good idea to note the case law which is referred by the counsel. For example, in this case, it's Guljan against Naik Muhammad. Do not skip any part of the judgment, as you never know what part of the judgment might be relevant for your purposes. So if you scroll down, you will figure out what the outcome is, and in this case the appeal was allowed. So if we go back on the home page, and let's suppose you want to do case law search by way of plugging in the keywords. Now always make sure that you select the option all instead of last 5 years, and then do your research. So in this case, let's plug in the keywords validity, arbitration, and agreement. So there are still 31 pages of results. If you want to further filter it down, you can keep adding more keywords, and then you can use a number of filters. Once again, choose the court if you want Supreme Court judgments. So there are two main ways that I have taught you research. One is through statute search, the other one is through case law search. If you are looking for a certain case for which you know the citation, then you can go on citation search and plug in the air quote category, and if you know the page number, then you can choose this option of book citation. Alright guys, so this is how the India law website Manupatra looks like. As you can see, I have filtered the results, and in this case, because we use the proposition of validity of the arbitration agreement, so I've used the keywords validity, arbitration agreement. Now if you can see, there is this option of international database available, so I have further filtered it down by selecting Pakistan, and then you can see a number of cases over here. So if you want to further filter the research, you can see the options over here. So let's suppose you want to find case law from 2010 onwards, so you can choose 2010 and above. So Pakistan law site is fairly limited when it comes to the options available. Manupatra has way more options. In this case, I have only given you one example of Pakistan cases. However, if you want to find case law from other jurisdictions, then as you can see, there are a number of options available. And if you want to search according to the citation, then you can see there is this option of citation search as well. So like I said, you have to be creative with your research and do not rely on any one particular method of research. There are multiple ways you can use your creativity to do research. So that's all about it on Manupatra website. Of course, I haven't covered all the options, and this is something which I might do another just one individual session on doing research on Manupatra, because there are just a lot of options available. But for now, this is just a brief introduction to Manupatra. Hope you all found the video useful. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel, and see you in the next video. Thank you.